The luxury mountain home sat at the edge of Aspen, Colorado, where million-dollar properties backed onto wilderness. Sarah Mitchell stood in her driveway, arguing with Marcus Thompson, a man in hiking clothes who had stopped to warn her about bear activity in the area. "Ma'am, I've been tracking a grizzly through this neighborhood for the past hour," Marcus said urgently. "She has cubs, and she's been getting into garbage. You need to keep your family inside?" "Excuse me, who are you?" Sarah interrupted, looking him up and down suspiciously. "Are you soliciting? Because this is a private community." Marcus maintained his calm. "No, ma'am. I'm a wildlife biologist. I work with the Colorado Parks and Wildlife Service. There's a dangerous situation, and I need you." "I don't know what you're selling, but I'm not interested," Sarah said dismissively, already turning back toward her house. "And I'd appreciate it if you didn't loiter around this neighborhood. We have security." What Sarah didn't know was that the man she just dismissed held a PhD in wildlife biology, had worked with dangerous predators for 20 years, and was trying to prevent exactly the kind of tragedy that was about to unfold. In less than 5 minutes, her daughter's life would depend entirely on him. Before we dive into this story, don't forget to subscribe and like for more amazing stories like this one. You won't believe what happens next. Marcus walked away from the property, frustrated but not surprised. He dealt with dismissive homeowners before, especially in wealthy neighborhoods where people assumed anyone approaching them was either selling something or didn't belong there. He continued monitoring the area, following fresh bear tracks and claw marks on trees. The grizzly was close, and with cubs, she would be extremely aggressive. Inside the house, 10-year-old Emma Mitchell was bored. Her mother was on a work call, and Emma had been told to stay inside. But through the window, she saw her soccer ball in the front yard from yesterday's game. "I'll just grab it real quick," Emma whispered to herself, quietly opening the front door. She ran across the lawn toward the ball, not noticing the massive shape moving through the trees at the edge of the property. The crisis was seconds away. Marcus, now 2 houses down the street, heard a sound that made his blood run cold. The distinctive huff of a grizzly bear in defensive mode. He spun around and saw the nightmare scenario unfolding. Emma was in the front yard, frozen in terror. A massive grizzly bear, easily 500 pounds, had emerged from the wooded area, with 2 small cubs behind her. The mother bear was between Emma and her cubs, the most dangerous possible situation. Marcus didn't hesitate. He sprinted toward the property, his mind instantly calculating angles, distances, and defensive options.
"Emma, don't move," he shouted with command authority.
The bear noticed Emma and stood on her hind legs, reaching nearly 8 feet tall. She roared, a sound that shook the air, warning the small human away from her cubs. Emma screamed, and the sound triggered the bear's protective instincts. The grizzly dropped to all 4s and charged. Marcus was already moving, positioning himself between the charging bear and the child. He had maybe 3 seconds. What happened next would determine if Emma lived or died. Marcus did something that looked suicidal. He charged toward the attacking bear, making himself the primary target, yelling at the top of his lungs to draw her attention away from Emma. "Hey! Over here!" Marcus roared, waving his arms to make himself appear larger. The bear's focus shifted entirely to Marcus. She changed direction mid-charge, her massive bulk covering ground with terrifying speed. Marcus stood his ground until the last possible second, then executed a technique that took decades of experience. He stepped aside at precisely the right moment, using the bear's momentum to guide her past him, while simultaneously grabbing Emma and pulling her behind a large decorative boulder in the yard. The bear, confused by the sudden change in prey location, skidded past them. Her cubs were now moving away from the humans back toward the woods. "Stay behind me," Marcus commanded Emma, keeping his body between her and the bear. "Don't make a sound." Inside the house, Sarah had heard the commotion and looked out the window. What she saw made her heart stop. Her daughter behind a boulder with that stranger she had dismissed, and a massive grizzly bear pacing back and forth just yards away. The standoff was life or death. The mother bear was trying to decide if they were still a threat. Her cubs had retreated toward the forest, which reduced her aggression slightly. but she was still dangerously close and highly agitated. Marcus slowly reached for the bear spray he always carried. His movements were so controlled and deliberate that even Sarah, watching in frozen horror from the window, barely saw him move. "Easy, Mama," Marcus said in a low, steady voice. "Your babies are safe. We're not a threat." The bear huffed, blowing air from her nostrils, a stress signal but not immediate attack. She took one step back, then another, her head swiveling between the humans in the direction her cubs had gone. "That's right," Marcus encouraged softly. "Go take care of those cubs. We're leaving your space." After what felt like an eternity, the mother bear turned and lumbered back toward the woods where her cubs had disappeared. But Marcus didn't relax his guard. "Emma, we're going to stay very still for 5 more minutes," he whispered. "She could come back if she hears us move." They stood in absolute silence, Emma crying quietly, Marcus watching the tray line with the vigilance of someone who knew the danger wasn't over yet. The aftermath would expose everything. When Marcus finally deemed it safe, he quickly carried Emma to her front door. Sarah flung it open, her face wet with tears. "Emma. Oh my God, Emma." She grabbed her daughter, checking her for injuries. Then she looked at Marcus and the reality of what had just happened crashed over her. You saved her life." Marcus was already on his phone, calling Parks and Wildlife. "I need to report an aggressive grizzly encounter. Residential area, Aspen. Mother with cubs. I need a team here now to track and relocate." After he finished the call, he turned to Sarah. "Your daughter is fine, scared, but unharmed. The bear was protecting her cubs, not hunting." But this could have ended very differently. Sarah's voice shook. "When you came to my door, you were trying to warn me." "Yes, ma'am. And I treated you like... I assumed you were..." She couldn't finish the sentence, shame overwhelming her. The truth was finally being acknowledged. "You assumed I was a threat or a solicitor instead of someone trying to help," Marcus finished calmly. "It happens, but it almost cost your daughter her life." He knelt down to Emma's level. "Hey, you did great staying still when I told you to. That took a lot of courage." "You saved me," Emma whispered. "The bear was so big." "I know," Marcus said gently. "She was protecting her babies, just like your mom would protect you. She was scared too." Sarah found her voice. "Please, come inside. I don't even know where to start." "Who are you?" Marcus hesitated, then nodded. "I'm Dr. Marcus Thompson. I have a PhD in wildlife biology from Stanford. I've worked with dangerous predators for 20 years, including grizzlies, mountain lions, and wolves. I consult for Colorado Parks and Wildlife on human-wildlife conflict." Sarah covered her face with her hands. "I judged you. I saw you in hiking clothes, approaching my house, and I assumed the worst, because of how I looked," Marcus said quietly. "It's not the first time, and it won't be the last." The transformation was beginning. "That's not an excuse," Sarah said, tears streaming down her face. "You tried to help, tried to warn me about danger to my family, and I dismissed you because of racist assumptions I didn't even realize I was making." She looked at Emma. "Honey, I need you to understand something. Dr. Thompson tried to help us, and Mommy was rude to him because I made unfair judgments. That almost cost you your life. I was wrong, and I'm so sorry." Emma looked at Marcus with pure admiration. "You were so brave, you ran at the bear." "I wasn't being brave," Marcus corrected gently. "I was using 20 years of knowledge about bear behavior. The bear wasn't trying to kill. She was trying to protect. By making myself the focus and giving her cubs space to retreat, I gave her a reason to disengage." He looked at Sarah. "That's why, when I came to your door with a warning, it wasn't random. I had been tracking that bear for over an hour. I knew she was dangerous. I knew she had cubs, and I knew she was moving through this neighborhood. I was trying to prevent exactly what just happened." Sarah nodded, unable to speak. The impact extended beyond one family. When the Parks and Wildlife team arrived, they confirmed everything Marcus had reported. The bear had been relocated, and the neighborhood was given proper safety protocols. The team leader approached Sarah. "Ma'am, You should know that Dr. Thompson is one of the foremost experts on grizzly behavior in North America. We call him when we have dangerous situations, because he understands these animals better than almost anyone. He told me he was a wildlife biologist, Sarah said quietly. I didn't believe him. I didn't want to listen. The team leader looked uncomfortable. Unfortunately, Dr. Thompson deals with that a lot. People see him and make assumptions, but everyone in our field knows. When Marcus Thompson tells you there's danger, you listen. Sarah made a decision. She called her homeowners association, then the local news. Within hours, she was on camera telling the story, not making herself the hero, but acknowledging her prejudice and how it had nearly cost her daughter's life. I saw a man approaching my home, and instead of listening to his urgent warning about a dangerous bear, I dismissed him because of how he looked, Sarah said on camera. Dr. Marcus Thompson tried to save my daughter before the bear ever appeared, and I wouldn't let him. When the crisis came, he saved her anyway. I owe him more than gratitude. I owe him an apology and a commitment to do better. The story spread rapidly. The video went viral. News outlets picked up the story of the wildlife expert who saved a child despite being dismissed by the very person he tried to warn. It sparked conversations about implicit bias, assumptions about who belongs in wealthy neighborhoods, and the expertise that people overlook. Marcus was offered a position as the community's official wildlife safety consultant, which he accepted. He conducted mandatory training sessions for all residents on bear safety, and Sarah made sure every single person attended. Dr. Thompson is teaching us how to coexist safely with wildlife, Sarah told her neighbors at the first session. More importantly, he's teaching us to listen when experts speak, regardless of our preconceptions about who those experts are. Emma became fascinated with wildlife biology, spending hours talking to Marcus about bears, wolves, and conservation. He gave her books, answered her questions, and eventually became a mentor. 6 months later, the change was lasting. Sarah had become an advocate for implicit bias training and community education. She funded wildlife safety programs in schools and donated to conservation organizations. But more importantly, she had fundamentally changed how she saw people. She learned names of service workers. She listened when people with expertise tried to guide her. She taught Emma the same lessons. On the 6-month anniversary of the incident, Sarah invited Marcus to dinner. Emma had prepared questions about grizzly behavior, and the three of them spent hours discussing wildlife, conservation, and respect. You know what still amazes me, Sarah said. After I treated you so terribly, you still risked your life to save Emma. Marcus smiled. She's a child. She didn't do anything wrong. And honestly, that's what I'm trained to do, protect people from wildlife and wildlife from people. You're a remarkable person, Sarah said. And I'm grateful that Emma gets to learn from you. You've taught her about wildlife, but you've taught me about my own blindness. The ending reflected profound change. Dr. Marcus Thompson continued his work, educating communities and preventing human-wildlife conflicts. The viral video had brought attention to both the important work of wildlife biologists and the implicit biases that cause people to dismiss expertise. Sarah Mitchell had learned the hardest lesson a parent can learn, that her assumptions and prejudices had nearly cost her child's life. But she had learned it, changed from it, and used her position and resources to make sure others could learn without the same terrible cost. The man she had dismissed as a threat had been the only person who could save her daughter. The expert she wouldn't listen to had proven that judgment based on appearance rather than evidence can be deadly. Emma grew up understanding that expertise doesn't look any particular way, that heroes come in all forms, and that the most important thing you can do is listen when someone with knowledge tries to help you. A stranger on the street had saved more than one life that day. He had opened eyes, challenged biases, and reminded a community that respect for expertise should be based on knowledge and skill, not on assumptions about who belongs and who doesn't. The end of one encounter, the beginning of real change.